Lin-Manuel Miranda accepted the 2017 Freedom Award from the U.S. Capitol Historical Society. The playwright and composer is being recognized for his work on the musical Hamilton, of course, which explores the life of immigrant Alexander Hamilton, who became a founding father of the United States. During his acceptance speech, Miranda spoke on behalf of all immigrants.
Without Alexander Hamilton and the countless other immigrants who built this country, it's very probable that very few of us would be here. Our story also includes the hundreds of thousands of young people today who came to this country with their parents and know no other home.
Miranda attributed his success to his New York public education and says national endowments for the arts and humanities are vital to our democracy.
Monsieur Lafayette!
In command where you belong.
Are you saying no sweat? We're finally on the field. We've had quite a run.
Immigrants,
we get the job done.
Resuming the subject of our last paper, we proceed to trace still farther the consequences that must result from a too unqualified admission of foreigners to an equal participation in our civil and political rights. The safety of a republic depends essentially on the energy of a common national sentiment, on a uniformity of principles and habits, on the exemption of the citizens from foreign bias and prejudice, and on that love of country which will almost invariably be found to be closely connected with birth, education and family. The opinion advanced in the notes on Virginia is undoubtedly correct, that foreigners will generally be apt to bring with them attachments to the persons they have left behind, to the country of their nativity, and to its particular customs and manners. They will also entertain opinions on government congenial with those under which they have lived, or if they should be led hither from a preference to ours, how extremely unlikely is it that they will bring with them that temperate love of liberty, so essential to real republicanism. There may as to particular individuals, and at particular times, be occasional exceptions to these remarks, yet such is the general rule. The influx of foreigners must, therefore, tend to produce a heterogeneous compound, to change and corrupt the national spirit, to complicate and confound public opinion, to introduce foreign propensities. In the composition of society, the harmony of the ingredients is all important, and whatever tends to a discordant intermixture must have an injurious tendency. The United States have already felt the evils of incorporating a large number of foreigners into their national mass. It has served very much to divide the community and to distract our councils, by promoting in different classes different predilections in favor of particular foreign nations, and antipathies against others. It has been often likely to compromise the interests of our own country in favor of another. In times of great public danger there is always a numerous body of men, of whom there may be just grounds of distrust. The suspicion alone weakens the strength of the nation, but their force may be actually employed in assisting an invader. In the infancy of the country, with a boundless waste to people, it was politic to give a facility to naturalization, but our situation is now changed. It appears from the last census, that we have increased about 1/3 in 10 years, after allowing for what we have gained from abroad. It will be quite apparent that the natural progress of our own population is sufficiently rapid for strength, security and settlement. By what has been said, it is not meant to contend for a total prohibition of the right of citizenship to strangers, nor even for the very long residence which is now a prerequisite to naturalization, and which of itself goes far towards a denial of that privilege. The present law was merely a temporary measure adopted under peculiar circumstances and perhaps demands revision. But there is a wide difference between closing the door altogether and throwing it entirely open, between a postponement of 14 years and an immediate admission to all the rights of citizenship. Some reasonable term ought to be allowed to enable aliens to get rid of foreign and acquire American attachments, to learn the principles and imbibe the spirit of our government, and to admit of at least a probability of their feeling a real interest in our affairs. A residence of at least 5 years ought to be required. If the rights of naturalization may be communicated by parts, and it is not perceived why they may not, those peculiar to the conducting of business and the acquisition of property, might with propriety be at once conferred, upon receiving proof, by certain prescribed solemnities, of their intention to become citizens, postponing all political privileges to the ultimate term. to admit foreigners indiscriminately to the rights of citizens, the moment they put foot in our country, as recommended in the message, would be nothing less than to admit the Grecian horse into the citadel of our liberty and sovereignty.